Hello, it is the leader of Team Get Wreck Robotics with another video for you guys. Sorry about the badly edited intro in the beginning, and today we'll be talking about how my Fairway P.F.R. and my Antweight BackStabber did at Robot Ruckus 2019 in Maker Faire in Orlando, Florida. I was really excited to compete at this event as I had so much fun competing last year. I had and watched some great fights, I met some amazing builders, including actual BattleBots competitors, and the whole thing was just a great experience in general. Anyways, the way this event report is going to work is I will show each fight and then talk about it afterwards. For those not interested in hearing me talk and just want to see the fights, I'll link them individually in the description below with last year's event report for those interested. Now, without any further ado, let's begin. First off is P.F.R. Now, just to start off, the configuration you see P.F.R. in now is not the configuration it originally started the event with. I'll go into more detail about it later on, but here's what P.F.R. is supposed to look like. As you can see, P.F.R. went into the event with its wheels more up front, cardboard pointers to hopefully keep opponents away from its sides, and a red sharp strip of metal to feed opponents into its little turning mouth thing. As you can see, there's also a little cute bunny ear up top. It serves no functional purpose. I just thought it'd be funny to add on. For those curious, I actually got that ear off a bot created by Rossetti's Replicas, who was kind enough to give it to me after we both competed at Clash of the Bots earlier this year. I'll link his channel in the description below, and I highly recommend subscribing to him. He's an amazing guy. Anyways, my first fight with P.F.R. was against a black 3D printed vertical spinner named Sherminator. Going to this fight, I knew it would not be easy at all for me to win this fight. This is because Sherminator is way faster than I am, and the front of the bot is way too big to actually fit into P.F.R.'s turning mouth, meaning I was not going to turn him over that way. My only real strategy was to just hope the cardboard pointers on P.F.R. could hold him off long enough for me to capitalize on a giant mistake and hopefully get to the back where it actually is narrow enough that it would fit into P.F.R.'s turning mouth. Let's see how that fight went.
Alright, go ahead and get started there.
Oh, such a slow match.
Looks like Sherminator headed towards the far corner, trying to do everything he can to push P.F.R. P.F.R. on that spinning claw. I don't know if it's quite big enough to attack Sherminator, but he's sure trying. I like that. Looks like there appears to be some cardboard protection around those wheels, forcing Sherminator up on them so he can't drive as quickly. I don't know if you can see that, ladies and gentlemen, but Sherminator has a fast spinning blade there in the front. He's trying to get it in close and take out P.F.R.
There goes something.
Pieces are flying with a little over 1 minute remaining here. We'll see who's going to come out on top. It might come down to the judges.
1 minute remaining.
Right where I get clear. Mr. Beard is slow down on that spinning claw. Oh, and there was another piece flying out of P.F.R. Sherminator might be slow. There goes the ear. They're pushing and looking for the corner.
Yeah.
Ooh, I hear a lot of
I can't even see it, but I know what's happening.
30 seconds remaining here. Sherminator trying to push him up against the wall. P.F.R. might be stuck there on his bench. Up against a piece of the wall. Oh, he closes the wheel with 15 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And unfortunately, P.F.R. loses its first fight of the event. Before I talked about how leading up to this fight, I didn't really think I stood that much of a chance against Sherminator, but I must say, the beginning of the fight was pretty even in my opinion. We had a few tiny weapon-to-weapon exchanges where my sideways lifter and his vertical spinner were kind of nick each other a little bit, but nothing too serious. The pointers actually did a pretty good job of keeping Sherminator away from P.F.R.'s sides despite being made of cardboard. He actually managed to get stuck on them once or twice, so that was good. However, as you saw, eventually everything just went horribly wrong. I don't really know what happened, but Sherminator just started tearing me apart. It ripped off the red feeder wedge. It ripped off the red feeder wedge. It ripped off the pointers. It ripped off P.F.R's turning mouth thingy. And worst of all, he tore off the cute little bunny here. I'm so sorry, Rossetti's replicas. I failed the bunny. I'm so sorry. Well, anyways, with that incredibly fun loss, P.F.R is sent right into the losers bracket, with its next opponent being against a red little axe bot named Krabby. Now, I feel like I should point out that this bot was actually from Team Kraken from BattleBots. They were mainly there to compete with Kraken in the heavyweight class, but the team is so big they split up into smaller groups and entered a couple other bots into the other weight classes. And let me just tell you right now, Krabby is not going to be the only Kraken bot you see this video. As for my strategy against this bot, I was actually able to put P.F.R back together relatively easily after his fight with Sherminator. The only real damage Sherminator did was just break the servo motor that the weapon was originally on when it tore it off. So I just put in a new one, super glued the mouth back on, and now it's good to go. Anyways, I knew that for Krabby I had to come up with a completely new configuration. First, I put P.F.R's wheels further back so that there would be a harder chance of them getting hit with the axe. Then I turned the spinning mouth sideways and put the kind of like red feeder wedge from earlier directly on it, so P.F.R would kind of act more as a regular lifter, and hopefully I could outreach Krabby before their axe could come down on top of me. Lastly, in case the axe did manage to hit me, I took the metal wedge, as you can see there, that I would normally use against horizontal spinners, and put it on top to kind of prevent any damage that could be done with the axe. So with all that preparation, let's see how that fight went. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't actually have the video of this fight. So it's actually kind of a funny story. Normally, my dad, he's amazing, is the one who records my fights. But at the time of my fight, he was somewhere else. And I didn't think it was worth the effort of trying to go find him and having to possibly postpone the fight, because on this second day, that's when this fight took place, we were on a really tight schedule. We had to get as many fights done as possible. We had to move in and out as fast as possible. So I thought it would just be easier to just have someone else film it, which is why I actually gave it to Matt Spurks, also known as the team captain of Kraken. I love him so much. He's amazing, one of my personal heroes and stuff. He was nice enough to agree to take a video of the fight. But, and this is not his fault at all. He actually messed up or something, and he had it set on picture instead of video. So all I really have to show for the fight is these two pictures. So what I'm pretty much going to have to do is I'm just going to have to kind of explain what happened with the fight as I can. I don't really know how my memory is, and if I can find the video somewhere else, I'll upload it to the channel. But for now, this is what we're going to have to do. So, as you can see from the pictures we do have, like I mentioned before, I kind of turned the mouth of P.F.R sideways and put the little red metal thing as kind of the lip of the lifter, so I could kind of lift up Krabby front ways. And Krabby has a little nice sharp pickaxe. Pretty much the way the fight went was that I didn't succeed in getting many lifts, but he did succeed in bringing the axe down on me many, many, many times. But luckily, that metal plate on top prevented too much damage. As you can see in the second picture, I don't have the red lip anymore. Somehow, I guess I didn't glue it on right. After a few axe blows, it just came off, so then I was pretty much left without a weapon. I could still spin the thing, but it wasn't really working right. It was actually a little bit of an even fight. Before the little red metal thing came off, I wasn't really lifting that much, but sometimes Krabby would accidentally tip over and I could like hit him on the bottom with it. I hope that doesn't sound suggestive. We tussled a little bit, and I don't know how to describe it. I just really wish I could have shown you this fight. I remember when the announcer said it was like the best fight they had that day, and it really sucks that I didn't really get to record it, but that's okay. I'm just glad that the people who could see it in person enjoyed it. The point is, after a back and forth fight, me trying to get a few lifts, him bringing down the axe, it didn't end in KO, so I went to judges. And unanimously, I lost, unfortunately. But I think it was a good fight for P.F.R to lead the competition on. P.F.R is now out of the competition. And with that, P.F.R is kicked out of the competition 0-2. Although I'm honestly okay with that, as P.F.R has never really been that much of a competitive machine, and has always just been there to be entertaining and be a fun bot to watch, and I think it accomplished that at this event. Unfortunately, I must also mention that this is P.F.R's last ever fight. That's right, after about 1.5 years, this little guy's going to retirement. Now, I know I just made it clear I don't really care that much about winning, but it would be nice to have a featherweight that could really hold its own against others, as I feel like that could potentially help the entertainment value of other fights. And I'm afraid P.F.R just isn't that kind of bot. In fact, including grudge matches and rumbles, P.F.R has a fight record across 4 competitions of 2-10. Yeah, that's 2 wins and 10 losses, so obviously there are some problems with this machine, and I don't know if I could fix it in its current incarnation. The next 150-gram bot I build will definitely still have the 360-degree turning mouth thing, but I'm afraid I can't do that with P.F.R. I would have to rebuild the entire thing from the ground up. Now, I've always loved P.F.R, and I always will. It proved to me that I could build a combat robot. It was the first robot I ever built, and I was so proud when I did build it. I learned so much from working on it, as everyone has. You all got to start somewhere, and the knowledge I learned from doing so will definitely help me in the long run of this crazy sport. You move up one step at a time. But I'm afraid it's just time to move on. But before we say goodbye to P.F.R, let me just say one last time, P.F.R may not have been the perfect fighting robot as the name implied, but it was my fighting robot. Goodbye, P.F.R. You will be missed.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through. That I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. See you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way, from where we began. You know we started. Oh, I'll tell you all about it.
Looks like the winner is P.F.R.
Next up is BackStabber, my Antweight crusher. Now, right off the bat, I am going to point out the obvious fact that, similar to P.F.R, BackStabber looks very different now compared to when it originally entered the competition. You can see a few pieces next to it, and the whole bot just looks really wrecked. Our name, Team Get Wrecked, I see the irony in there. The point is, just for clarification, here's what BackStabber is supposed to look like. As you can see, this is what BackStabber is supposed to look like. While the picture up, it only makes sense to talk about the improvements BackStabber had leading into this event. I kind of went over most of this in my overview video for BackStabber, link in the description. But the 2 biggest things BackStabber had going for it at this event were its 2 giant beetle weight motors. That's right, I took motors that would be used for beetle weights and put in an ant weight to increase speed. Even though it is not really a good idea, I had to get rid of a lot of stuff for weight. I had to drill holes in it. I had to remove a lot of stuff, including the metal wedge BackStabber usually has. But that's okay, because I replaced it with a plastic wedge with little teeth that had been sanded to be as low to the ground as possible. So hopefully I could get underneath other wedge bots and robots with feeder wedges. Anyways, BackStabber's first opponent of the event was a modified fingertech kit with a thick metal scoop named JT Holla. It was also really low to the ground, so my strategy for this fight was just hope that my wedge was somehow lower than his, and if I did manage to get underneath JT Holla, or whatever its name is, I would try to corral him into the wall and keep him still long enough to bring down the Crusher, and after that, try to drive him to the pit. Now, let's see how that fight went.
Alright. Wait for the voices in the sky. Hit it!
3, 2,
1, fight! You got 2 minutes.
Robots are off. JT Holla moving across the field looking for BackStabber, trying to flip him up. Already taking him up against the wall there. 10 seconds in, there's a lot of impacts here. No parts have gone flying yet.
Adjust if you need.
135 seconds remaining.
It's pitching.
JT Holla doing his best to push BackStabber up against the corner, letting him free out to move in the battle box. It's push versus push. They look evenly matched there. JT Holla doing everything he can to push it up against the wall. Doing a decent job there, keeping BackStabber pinned. BackStabber not moving.
That's the movement.
If he doesn't get moving soon, we are about to start a countdown. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, shoot, that did not end the way I wanted to at all. As I thought, the fight started out as a battle between wedges. Luckily for me, it seemed that I had the lower wedge, as the few times where I and JT Holla did go head-to-head, I would either get underneath him or it would be a stalemate. However, part of what made me lose this fight is the kid behind JT Holla was just way better at driving than me. That's a fact. There were several moments in the fight where he was able to drive off my wedge before I could bring down the Crusher all the way, and every now and then JT Holla could capitalize on one of my driving mistakes and wedge me at the sides or from behind. Speaking of driving mistakes, the reason why I made so many is because I'm still not used to new motors in BackStabber that makes it way faster than anything I've ever driven before. In fact, here's a spare motor for reference. Let me just get this. As mentioned before, these are the kind of motors in some of the fastest beetle weights around. So hopefully you can understand what I'm dealing with when I put 2 of these in BackStabber and run it off an 11-volt free S LiPo battery like this. This packs some power too. In short, due to BackStabber's speed, let me just put this back. Due to BackStabber's speed, I was having trouble properly controlling it, which is why sometimes in the fight I would move too far to the left or right and miss driving into JT Holla when I wanted to, and would even crash into the wall at times. Now, on to why BackStabber stopped moving in the end, it was counted out. I'm afraid BackStabber lost what many builders considered to be the second worst way to lose, right behind doing the thing, and that's faulty wiring. To understand what I mean, let's take a look at BackStabber's drive system. Now, using spare parts I had laying around, I've made a little diagram of BackStabber's drive system. As you can see, it already uses those 2 motors. I went over that, but I didn't talk about how it uses this ESC. As you can see, the port right here connects the battery to the receiver, which connects to the motors, and then that power transfers into the receiver using these 2 wires. As you can see, they just plug right into the receiver. Now, unlike a normal ESC, where you would solder the ends of the wire directly onto the board, instead, all you have to do is just screw them in. See the little screw holes? Yeah, just make sure it's tightened really tight. Same thing goes for the battery cable. Now, while this makes wiring easier, the obvious disadvantage is that if it's not screwed properly, a wire can pop out during a fight, and unfortunately this is what happened with BackStabber. So during the fight with JT Holla, one of the wires for the right motor, yeah, it just came out. It came right out of the little box. I'm a little embarrassed to say that, because I just straight up did not screw it tight enough. Now, you're probably wondering what happened to the left motor. Well, somehow, in a big string of bad luck, at the exact same time, one of the little solder ends of the wire disconnected from the motor. So that's right, somehow both of my motors failed for a completely different reason. One, because I didn't screw it right into the ESC, and the other, because I didn't solder it right. So with that, BackStabber was just there with no motors, and it wasn't going to win that match. It was done. I couldn't do anything to fix that. And I think I speak for every builder out there when I say you never want to lose like that. It's one thing to lose via getting tossed out of the arena, or split in half, or even catch on fire, but to lose because of a mistake that you could have easily prevented really is kind of frustrating. I honestly would have rather had BackStabber completely irreparable in pieces all over the floor than to lose like that, but unfortunately that's just how the sport goes sometimes. Anyways, with that, BackStabber is sent right into the losers bracket. Now, BackStabber's next fight was originally going to be against an undercutter named Chainsaw, which, funny enough, is another bot from Team Kraken. But, unfortunately, it was too badly damaged from a previous fight, so it had to forfeit its fight with BackStabber. And that's the same as, I don't think anyone ever wants to win by forfeit. What do you gain from that, really? But regardless, BackStabber automatically moves on to the next round of the losers bracket to face, funny enough, another robot from Team Kraken in the form of Tobor, which it took me way too long to realize is just robot spelled backwards. Now, I didn't really have to do a lot in preparation for this fight. All I had to do was resolder the wires onto the drive motors and make sure the other ends of the wires were screwed into the ESC as tight as possible, because I didn't want a repeat of what happened against JT Holla. Tobor itself is just another wedge bot, so the strategy was pretty much going to be the same as last time, except this wedge is twice as long as BackStabber. It's pretty wide and pretty big in general. It's kind of threatening. So I didn't really have to change a lot to BackStabber. One improvement I did do is that I put on a new wedge because some of the teeth on the old one broke off during the fight with JT Holla. And then I sanded it down to be as low to the ground as possible. You always want to win the wedge battle. My strategy against Tobor was, as mentioned before, going to be the same as last time. Try to out-wedge him and try to bring down the Crusher. And once I have a hold of him, try to push him into the pit. Although, one problem with that is that there's a chance, Tobor might not be able to fit into the pit due to its size. But I knew that I had to try, so let's see how that fight went.
Alright, it's robot fighting time.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Both robots are moving. Weapons don't have to get up to speed here. Looks like BackStabber. Oh, Tobor already getting into the pit. We gotta count him down, see if he can get out in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's that match. Don't feel bad, the pit gets all of us. I've fallen into the time or two. It was
Yes, BackStabber actually won a fight, and by a KO in under 20 seconds. I actually got Tobor in the pit, even though I previously just said I didn't think I could do it, but he managed to fit. Now, if you look at the fight, you'll see I didn't actually push him into the pit technically, more as Tobor kind of drove itself into the pit by accident. Even though it's kind of hard to see due to framing of the video, I believe this is mainly because when BackStabber and Tobor met up originally, he immediately went up my wedge and I started to crush down on him. But before I could get a full pinch with all the pressure, he immediately drove backwards to prevent this from happening, and I guess he wasn't paying attention and accidentally drove into pit as a result. And at the end of the fight, you'll probably notice me doing a little victory dance, spinning around, that whole thing. This is because I'm just so happy BackStabber performed the way I wanted to. And what's even better is that for winning the fight, pinned up here, I got this little cool Robot Ruckus official winner medallion. And I'm just so proud of it. You have no idea how much this little piece of plastic means to a builder. It means that your bot was good enough to best another bot in battle, and all the hours of work and effort you put into that machine was worth it. At this point, other builders probably already had like a 3 or 4 or something, but you have no idea how happy I was just to get one. I was ecstatic. Anyways, by winning this fight, BackStabber automatically moves on to the next round of the losers bracket and keeps its tournament hopes alive. Let's see that. Now, my next match was against a bot named Verbal Irony. Verbal Irony is a small blue vertical spinner that is pretty much the Antweight version of Death Roll. By that I mean its weapon disc is shaped like that of Death Roll's, its weapon sticks out far enough that it doesn't need a feeder wedge, and it can even self-right just by using the power of its own weapon. Now, I knew I had to make some major changes to BackStabber for this fight. First, I had to add a popsicle stick to keep the stabilizing tail as straight as possible, since after 2 fights it started to bend, which was keeping BackStabber's wedge from fully riding the ground. Next, you can't really see it here, but I taped and glued cardboard pieces to the sides of BackStabber, so if the sides did get hit, they could absorb some of that kinetic energy and not shatter into pieces as 3D printed parts tend to do. Lastly, I got rid of the big crusher that's normally on BackStabber, as you can see right here. And instead, off to the side here, I put on this lighter crusher that would, 1, allow for the weight needed to do the previous stuff mentioned. And because the tooth on the other crusher was so long, it would probably just get ripped off by the spinner Verbal Irony. So it would be better to have a smaller tooth, kind of like this. As for strategy, I was just going to do everything I could to keep the wedge pointed toward Verbal Irony, since he didn't also have feeder wedge, and hope I can bite down on him without hitting the vertical spinner and getting torn to pieces. Let's see how that fight went.
1 5. Yeah, no, go. You have 2 minutes. I hit the wrong button. Well, that's a little wire sticking out of my BackStabber. That's Verbal Irony is trying to get to those wires. That's just wrong. There goes a piece on the BackStabber. 10 more pieces. Uh-oh, BackStabber. Yeah. Motion. Not that type of motion. 9. Oh, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. That's a tap. And the winner of this fight was Verbal Irony after.
And after a devastating KO, BackStabber is eliminated from the competition at 1 and 2, which, ironically, is the exact same record it got last year. So I don't know what to make of that. As one went wrong, BackStabber was just not responding the way I wanted to. Sometimes it would go forwards when I wanted to turn one way, or it would spin in circles when I wanted to go backwards. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it was radio interference issues, but I can't be sure. Either way, because of this, Verbal Irony was able to just absolutely destroy me. I mentioned that I wanted to keep the wedge pointed to Verbal Irony at all times, but I just failed in doing so. Verbal Irony hit BackStabber everywhere except the wedge. It hit the sides, it hit the wheels, and it even hit me in the back, which is what killed BackStabber in the end. Now, let's take a look at some of the damage Verbal Irony did. I didn't do that much damage to the sides of BackStabber thanks to the cardboard. It did the job of absorbing the hits and everything. Unfortunately, I didn't think to put any on the back, which led to this. As you can see, it's kind of hard to see here. There's a big gash in the back of BackStabber. The 3D printed plastic just did not do anything to protect itself. In fact, the blade of Verbal Irony is actually able to get deep enough that it's able to catch the port to the ESC right here and pull it straight out, so no power from the battery was going into the receiver, and BackStabber was dead. The only other damage Verbal Irony did, if at all, was that it put a few small gashes, they're so small you can't really see them, into the wheels. And I must say, the wheels held up really well. They were really durable. Maybe you can see a few small cuts, but overall the wheels are totally usable. I can see why these kinds of wheels are used in D2 kits and other bots. They just can take a hit and keep going. In fact, these are the same wheels I've used for a year. Now that BackStabber is unfortunately out of main competition, and all that left are grudge matches. So let's get into the grudge matches. Now, I was originally going to have a grudge match with some drum spinner whose name I don't really remember, which explains the little black cardboard thing on the wedge. It was supposed to protect the neck from the spinner, absorb hits, all that stuff, yada yada yada. However, that match did not end up happening, and here's why. See, BackStabber's last 2 fights both occurred on the second and last day of Robot Ruckus, which, as I kind of touched on earlier with P.F.R. versus Krabby, was on a really tight schedule. I think the event had to be done by like 5 or something, since that was when Maker Faire officially ended, and by 4:30, I think we still had the semifinals and the finals of the Antweight and Beetleweight brackets to go through. So there was definitely not enough time to do any unnecessary matches such as grudge matches. However, the organizer of the inset class was nice enough because he didn't want the builders who waited for grudge matches to leave empty-handed without getting another fight in. So he just said that anyone with an Antweight to still work would just put it into the arena for some giant final free-for-all Antweight Rumble. So despite getting previously curb-stomped by verbal irony, I was easily able to get BackStabber repaired. I screwed back into connector port into the ESC for the battery. I put on a new makeshift stabilizing tail using Gorilla Glue, Gorilla Tape, and a yellow piece of plastic I found somewhere. And best of all, BackStabber seemed to no longer have radio issues when I drove it into the text box, so that was good. Now, I didn't even try to come up with some kind of specialized strategy for the Rumble because no matter what, I was screwed. See, generally speaking, crushers are in no way fit to fight multiple opponents at once, and this definitely applies to BackStabber. First off, there's going to be at least 10 other bots in the arena, so that was pretty much, there's pretty much no way I would be able to focus on one distinct target and do what would be needed to do to get a crush on them with all the chaos happening around me. Secondly, as a crusher, BackStabber literally can only use its weapon on one robot at a time. So even if I could bite down on one opponent, another bot would probably just mess me up while I'm distracted, since what am I going to do? My mouth is already full, robotically speaking, I guess. So I wasn't really going to focus that much on winning, which many people who have participated in Rumbles will tell you is really hard to do. More as I was kind of focused on just making the fight as entertaining as possible for the audience, and just seeing how long it could last. So, with that, are you ready to rumble?
Right. This is crazy. I'm not introducing the robot. At the end, when there's a robot that's surviving, I'll introduce that robot. But until then, somebody's going to hit. That's Chainsaw. As he ran, so she was fire. There's somebody else in the pit. There's If you're in the pit, you're stuck in the pit. Sorry, you're not going to get out unless you're on top. It's just not going to happen, especially with 2 robots in there. So, that 10-second rule, well, it still applies, it doesn't really apply, because this is a Rumble, and there are no cameras. You just go. This is what we use for fun. I see like the robots. I see several that are upside down in the corner.
Yes!
I see a broken weapon now of one of the bigger tactics. 2 minutes remaining, less than 2 minutes remaining in this fight. And one of the students is playing with a dead weapon. Somebody's dead in the corner. Multiple people are gaining up on one robot. And the student's going to get pushed into the pit while trying to push. The pit could get
Hit me again, Ryan!
I'm not sure what camera video view is up, but there's almost guaranteed to be something funny. Coming up on a minute. I got lots of kids yelling even though the robot is stuck in the pit.
Hit me again, Ryan!
Now this is going to be fun because there's too many alive robots, and the crowd is the one that gets to choose who wins. So it's basically fan favorite of the working robots.
Ryan! Hit me again!
Moxie is a drummer that just put the cracker on. That looks like the only weapon still alive. 35 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining in this 3-minute rumble. And you do have to be alive and mostly functional to be eligible to even win. But there are no prizes, as I'm looking at Dream Show with 2 wheels in there. Now they're gathering over here by pit. And there's about 10 seconds left. We're going to do the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this rumble is over. I want that to stop moving. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to point out a robot. Oh, plus I want to do this.
So I don't remember who won that Rumble, but I'm telling you right now, it definitely wasn't BackStabber. As you can see, it just got absolutely messed up. It got ganged up on several times, and a bunch of the big spinners just completely took it out. The ESC got messed up when a spinner hit it when it was upside down because the stabilized tail came off and it couldn't really drive right without flipping over. The little box came out, the wire just came straight out of the receiver. The receiver itself is bent, and the electrons just messed up. The crusher got ruined too after the little Lego pieces came off, just slouching down. The wedge got ripped apart as I expected. And the whole robot is just, it's not good at all. Even the actuator seized up in the end. So yeah, BackStabber obviously did not win that fight. But on the bright side, it wasn't the first robot out, so that's something. I think it was like third out, because like 2 other robots went to pit before that. And BackStabber, it wasn't going to win that fight. I knew that going ahead. I knew it was going to get ganged up on. I knew it couldn't handle hits from all those spinners and stuff. And the robot just wasn't going to win. But it was a great fight anyways. I love Rumbles. They're fun. That was a great fight. And with that was BackStabber's last fight at Robot Ruckus 2019. And that's it. And that is it for Team Get Wrecked at Robot Ruckus 2019. As for what to do moving forwards, I'm going to start developing a new featherweight to take P.F.R.'s place now that it's been retired, but I don't know how long it's going to take. As for BackStabber, I'd say its journey towards becoming the first successful Antweight crusher is just beginning. Sure, generally speaking, BackStabber hasn't really done that well at any competition it's been at so far, but it has always managed to get at least one win, so I think it has some potential. But no matter what, I can promise you right now, I will never stop improving BackStabber until it's the competitive machine I know it can be. So rest assured, BackStabber will just keep getting better and better within the years to come. Also, even though BackStabber will always be my main Antweight, I actually have a new one in the works. Not going to spoil anything right now, but I can tell you right now, this new Antweight is going to be unlike anything you've ever seen before. As for the event itself, it was somehow even better than last year. Not only did I have a fun time competing, but I also got to watch some amazing fights across all the different weight classes in person. However, the best part is that like last year, I had the pleasure of meeting so many amazing competitors from the actual BattleBots TV show. A couple of them even gave me some stickers, as you can see on the wall back here. In fact, I'd like to give a shout out to all the amazing builders I had the pleasure of meeting with. First, I'd like to give a shout out to Team Flight Plan, who are the builders of the famous Beetleweight SME. I'm actually going to link where you can buy a kit of SME. That's right. You can buy your own SME. They have this website and everything, and all money goes to the development of a heavyweight version of SME for BattleBots 2020. And from what the builder told me, it's going to be worth it. So if you plan on getting a new Beetleweight, I highly recommend getting the SME Beetleweight, the Smeetleweight. That's what it's called. I also talked to Team Halo, you know, the builders of that multi-brain and stuff, and they actually have their own event report. So I'll link that in the description as well. And of course, I can't forget about the BattleBots competitors. I met so many of them, such as Adam Wrigley from Team Shatter, Ray Billings from Tombstone, Jameson Go from Sawblaze, who actually gave me the honor of holding Silent Spring, my favorite Beetleweight in the world. I got to hold it in my hands. That was so nice of him. Kurt Durgin from Axe Backwards was also there. There was Victor Soto from Rotator, and most of all, Matt Spurks. I had to give him the biggest shout out of all. He's always been my biggest supporter of making an effective Antweight crusher, and he and his family members were so nice to me and all that. I just love that team so much. Thank you to every other builder I didn't mention by name, and just thanks to all of you. Everyone I ever talked to, it was amazing. However, the biggest thank you of all goes to every event organizer who helped put this thing together. This was a great thing for me to do. It was so fun, and it will always go down as one of the biggest experiences of my life. It was so fun. I will always remember it. Now, the last few minutes of this video are just going to be a video I took from the pits at the event. But before I do, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who somehow made it through this 40 to 50 minute long video. I really hope you like it. I know it's not perfect. I know there were editing mistakes. I know that I made lots of mistakes in talking. I'm not good at talking for a long time. And I know the video was far from perfect, but I really hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this. And just thank you. Just thank you. Have a nice day.
I've got one robot out on the field. Am I looking for my second one? Or do I have both? P.F.R versus Venom here.
There was like first race in the big one racer last night. Yes. But we can take our last one though. What do we do with it?
So he has a dead shaft with Rex. Yeah, a dead shaft for that.
Tobor in and Venom in. The door is closed. Drivers, when you're ready, go ahead and initialize for me.
Blue, red, rumble, red.
Robots are ready. Let's look to see a fight.
3, 2, 1, fight.
150 grams. Doing a whole lot of damage here.
The power of friendship will prevail. Right. Yeah.
Cuidado, cuidado, mis pantalones están fuego.
That's the thing with Battle Bike.